How's it feel to be in your 39th year?
It is my 39th year.
So you agree with me on that?
It is 39th year.
I know, but I had this debate with Jess the other day where I was talking to Finley, and I was like, now that you're in your 8th year, and she's like, no, she just turned 7.
You don't start at 1, you start at 0.
I know. And I was like, okay, so if someone got drafted and played for a team, are they in their first year? Or do you only say that, are they in their 0th year? Like, right? So she's like, no, it makes sense for that, but just saying it all becomes very confusing.
No, I'm in my 39th year. Yeah, I just turned 38. At the end of this one, I'll be 39, and then uno más.
Almost 40.
40, yeah. No, I look great, if that's what you're saying. I agree with you. I had a nice birthday. I didn't do much on my birthday, but, I was in California for 2 weeks before that, and that was wonderful. Jumped out of an airplane.
How's that?
Awesome. Until the chute opened, and then I didn't have fun as much anymore. But the free fall is cool. I want to jump from higher.
Can you, though?
You have to wear oxygen. There's only a handful of places that'll do it, and you can go up to, like, as a civilian, I think the highest you can go up to is 18,000 feet, but there are only
How much of a difference is it at that point?
Oh, you free fall for like 2.5 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas you free fell for what?
Like 60 seconds, something like that. And that shit was fun. It was cool. It was very cool. I was like, it was just an instant feeling of exhilaration and joy as soon as we stepped out of the plane.
So what's the process like? Like, you show up and you go through some kind of a class.
You watch a video.
This is very...
You watch a video and they basically say, hey, you could die. This is up to you. And there's a lot of shit that can go wrong, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And then, you talk with your instructor. They get you sized up for your harness, and they walk you through the process and everything and what's going to happen, what he's going to do, what you're going to do, all that kind of stuff. And then walk out to the plane. And for us, it was like a 20-minute flight, something like that. And it was cool because we were in Mariposa, California, which is just outside Yosemite Park. And so we did a big circle, like flew over the mountains, and like you could look down. You couldn't see the whole valley, but you could see some of the prominent things. Like you could see El Cap, and you could see Half Dome. And then we swung back around towards the airport, and it was not what I envisioned in my mind. I envisioned we'd have like a 4 or 6 seater plane, and we were in this tiny ass plane that really, not really, the only chair was for the pilot, and he was awesome. He was a wild man. He just was like, he was very fun. But we had to sit on the floor, small plane. Leanne's shoved into the back, like her feet into the tail. I'm right beside the door. So it wasn't like...
Was that planned? It was like, hey, you're going to go first?
She just got in. She just got in. They got her in first and then got me. And I don't know, maybe the instructors did that on purpose because I looked much more comfortable. Like Leanne was not comfortable. She did not have the level of fun that I had, that's for sure. So, but it was just tough getting out. Like I think I showed you on the video. Like I got one foot out and then my other foot was stuck, and so I'm like kind of in limbo trying to get out of the plane. But it was interesting because like total zen. I wasn't afraid. There wasn't a part of me. There's like a time when I was like, I want to get out of the plane. I'm ready to be out of the plane, but wasn't afraid. As soon as we stepped out of the plane, I was like excited, and it was just this fun. But the free fall was awesome. Being under the chute's not as fun. I also made myself sick because I was whipping myself around with the handles, and so I got really motion sick. But
in the video, you hear you say, "Not going to do any more of that."
Not done with it. That's it. So yeah, I would do it again. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was really fun. I got hit with the big guy tax because I put a few pounds on.
How much was that?
An extra $25.
Dang.
Yeah. Because I was over 200 pounds, and I put a few lbs on after the half marathon, which they're coming back down. Don't worry about that. But yeah,
you don't have to go the whole way to California. You can go
to Orange,
right here to Orange.
Yeah, I think the views are a little different.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
I'd still do it here. I would do it here if you were like, "Hey, let's go do it." I'd be like, "Sure, man, let's go." So anyway, we're talking about, this is a nutrition Q&A episode. And so we put out, we're going to not just jump in with questions. We're going to lay some structure first, right? Or do you want to just do the questions? What do you want to do?
What do you think's best? I don't know. I wrote out some stuff that we could touch on, but we don't necessarily need to go through it like line by line.
Right. I think talking about the part where, just our experience with ourselves and with certain clients about obsession over aesthetics versus focusing on performance. I got it all out. Aesthetics and focusing on performance and how much, I don't know, just a healthier mindset it ends up being within your focus on performance, but then also you actually make great aesthetic changes.
Yes.
For most people.
And I think there's a lot of ways that you can get to a physique that you would like to have. What'd you do?
I didn't need to do this, but it was driving me nuts. My exposure compensation was adjusted on my...
There's a lot of ways that you could get to physique goals, aesthetic goals.
Sure.
And I mean, in my experience, having done two very different approaches and winding up in similar places, one is miserable, not really sustainable. I mean, not sustainable. It's not even designed to be sustainable.
He's talking about bodybuilding competition.
Versus the other being a more habit and skill-based, going through precision nutrition and winding up. I mean, I have the pictures like of 3-4 days out from a bodybuilding show that ultimately got canceled next to, and it's not even like I mean, it's an after picture, but it's just like because sometimes you hear after picture and you think of like someone worked their butt off for that one day, and then it's like, all right, like, but that was just kind of like the new normal picture, and they're not drastically different. And I know, like, actually talking with Bill Hartman about his experience with, what was it, getting to 5% body fat at 50 years old.
Yes.
And it was like, so I was like sharing my experience and showing the pictures, and I think he dabbled in bodybuilding back in the day, right? Like
I think he did powerlifting, bodybuilding.
And I remember him looking and being like, so you seriously weren't like doing bodybuilding stuff? Like you look like more dense and arguably leaner. And after, I'm like, I didn't do any of the crazy stuff that I did for bodybuilding. But all that to say, like, mentally, I was a completely different person too. When I was going for bodybuilding, there's like this, and I don't want to put this, like, I was having a conversation with Corey the other day. I was like, I'm very biased. I will probably tint the whole bodybuilding approach in a very negative light. And I'm sure that there are people that do okay with it, but it's just kind of a toxic world of like, you have a physique that most anyone would kill for, and you're like, yeah, I just need a little more like, you'll pick out these stupid tiny things, like, I need a little bit more separation here, and like it'd be one thing if it was just like, I'd like that, but like it becomes it affects, and in my experience, like, it affected my whole ability to even go and be social. You know what I mean?
But I think there's so if you look at it, I've never done bodybuilding. Never really desired to. It was never something that I thought about, but I did compete in powerlifting for a long time. And I think you look at things like that, and the difference is there's there's objectively what you're supposed to look like to get a good score as a bodybuilder, but there's also subjectivity built into that. Yeah. And so you have a handful of people looking at you and just looking at your physique and making these judgments about how you look and all that kind of stuff. And so you externalize this process of how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to train, and all of these kind of things, rather than internalizing it. And I think that that's why it starts to get toxic. Whereas, like, you look at powerlifting, you either picked the shit up or you didn't.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, there are rules about how you should pick it up, but it becomes far more, did you lift it or did you not? And not so much about, you know, I have to look a certain way because I'm going to be judged on how I look. Yep. Whereas, and there are many things about powerlifting that are very unhealthy. So I'm not trying to say that, but I think that that's where it becomes that way, is just you're externalizing validation.
Yeah.
Whether you think about that or not, that's exactly what's happening, you know?
Yeah. In contrasting that with the precision nutrition experience, I mean, I can give like, and I know I talked about this, I think, on a previous episode, but I'll touch on it again because for me, it was like my most. I think in the moment, I even was like, "This is ridiculous," but the further I got away from it, I was like, "That's really bad." Like I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was over at her parents' house.
This is when you're doing the bodybuilding.
Yeah, and all these people are coming over, and they grilled up all this food, and it looked amazing, and I was like, "I can't have that. I can't eat this stuff." And then there was just this big bowl of blueberries, and I just started eating blueberries. Blueberries, who cares, right? But I just kept eating them, and I was like, oh my God, I just had way too many carbs. And I ultimately was like, I have to go. And then she left with me, and it was like her parents have all these people over, and went back to my house, and I hopped on a stationary bike and was like, I have to work this off. Like, and I just like was pedaling away on a freaking stationary bike over blueberries when I could have been chilling, having a good time with people. And I don't know, it's such a weird, but in the moment it made perfect sense to me. That's how crazy I was. Contrast that with like the precision nutrition experience of, we went out to eat multiple times a week, at least once a week, but most weeks multiple times a week, and wound up in a much healthier mental place, but aesthetically wound up in almost the exact same place, but a completely different experience, completely different person, through two very different approaches.
Yeah. I mean, and Jordan and I touched on this yesterday on the Human Predator Pack Mule podcast about like, when it comes to figuring out nutrition and diet and what you're going to do is really understanding the level of experimentation that goes into it and figuring out what's going to work for you. And realizing that as you layer skills, it gets easier. I guess that's the right word. It gets easier. Because like for me, I'll just use myself as an example. Right now, I put some weight back on because I decided that I deserve some treats. No, after I just got in the habit of eaten more than I normally did. And then I went on vacation to California, and I got after it. And it's like, that's cool, man. But I'm not going to stay that way. But having skills and habits will help you redirect when you want to and have a healthy mindset about it. But all I know for myself, like all I really have to do is pay attention to my true hunger cues and track my activity level. But that's because I've spent a lot of time understanding portion sizes, other skills, and how they all layer together. So, and I eat, I mean, yes, I like to cook and I'll have some variation and stuff in there, but I eat a lot of the similar foods, and I know about how much of each of these things that I need to eat. And so that's to say, that's the outcome of experimentation and building a lot of skills that allows me to just say, well, I'm going to track my activity level again. I'm going to make sure that I'm increasing that daily. And then also just paying attention to my true hunger cues, and not like, if I eat so much that I'm not hungry again for 5 hours, I know that I ate too much at that meal. But if I eat and I know that I'm hungry again in 3 hours, 3.5 hours, I can sit and wait and say, make sure I'm really hungry. And then by 4 hours, I feel like I need to eat, like, okay, then I know that I'm right where I need to be. And that's just all to say that, like I said, experimentation and trying to figure out what works for you is what you need to do. Like for Jordan, he tracks all the time, and it works for him. And like for me, I don't necessarily enjoy it, and I also try to cheat that. Like I try to figure out what I can get away with while I'm tracking stuff for too long. So I'll do like a couple weeks of that for the year, just to understand, okay, this is about how much of each of these things I should have at a meal. And then I move on with my life and just pay attention to hunger and activity.
I mean, in coaching, you coined the what, why, how people. Mm-hmm. So what people, just tell me what to do. Like, right. And why people, like if you give them a solid, like, here's why we're doing what we're doing, then they'll do anything. And then how people are more like interpersonal, like they need a little more, right? Like, and we like frameworks and systems and everything. And so again, very highly influenced by precision nutrition, but like with our own little twist on it, whenever we put together our nutrition coaching program, it kind of evolved into this 3 levels of nutrition. And what you just said is like a perfect representation of a level 1 approach, which is where I genuinely think most people should be. And I should is like but Jordan is at a level 3 approach. And it's not to say that's a bad thing, but like you give that level 3 approach, just like you treat a Y person like a what person and you look like an asshole. Like you give that level 3 approach to the wrong person and you can drive them crazy. Maybe that's way too much for them to be like reading nutrition labels and weighing things and whatever, or maybe it drives them into like disordered eating. Or like you said, they gamify it. And it's like, for a lot of people, whenever they hear nutrition, they think of either name that diet, whatever the diet is, or they think, especially in this world, like macros, like, oh, like, so you're like, how many calories, how many grams of protein? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's like, cause the level 1 is really just base habits and skills. Like you said, one of the biggest ones is like understanding true hunger signals. And even that can be very tricky because boredom, other emotions, years of just eating at certain times become ingrained that you start to think that you feel hungry because you're used to eating at this time.
When you walk into certain rooms, like there's triggers for all kinds of stuff.
And so it's like sorting out those kinds of things, making sure that we understand how to plate proper portions. Like what does a good meal look like? How do we make sure that we have our bases covered? So we do all those things in level 1. And most people, like, they're going to wind up making progress towards their goals. And ultimately, that's all that I did with precision nutrition and got to my goals with it. Of course, you do some stuff where it was like, all right, you're going to track for this week. You're going to try this week. But for
that's the experimentation part.
Yes.
To see if this is going to work for you, you know?
And for the most part, I just stuck to the level 1. And even within level 1, like you can ramp things up like a volume knob. You can turn it up, you can turn it down. But the part that I think so many people would benefit from is our level 2. And it's something that I'm sure someone would be like, oh, I've seen it with this, but I don't know of anyone else that does it the way that we do. We teach all the habits and skills. I don't want to say all the habits and skills, but we teach our base habits and skills. And then we do a week of, we call level 2, which is just track everything, not aim, right? So like people hear that and they think, oh, so like track, like I'm going to aim for this many calories, this many grams of protein. But like, no, I want you, it's very hard because most people change once they're like, oh, I have to plug it into something.
It's like the Hawthorne effect.
Don't change anything. But I want you to track it, plug it into MyFitnessPal or whatever tracker you want to use and just see what you learn, right? And there's the way that we do it where maybe things are going okay and you're just doing that and getting some insight. But we've also seen it where someone is like, I'm not making any progress towards my goals. These stupid habits and skills don't work. It's like, interesting. Like, okay.
You got to give things more than 3 days.
Yeah.
You know,
well, that, and also like, but also there's ignorance of like thinking that you are doing things correctly and then doing something like this and tracking. I mean, because the original one that I was like, holy crap, was someone in the old gym.
Exactly right.
That was quitting the gym. They're like, I'm paying all this money for training. I paid for nutrition coaching and I'm not making any progress. And I'm like, okay, but like in all of these circumstances, it's like, so what's the alternative? You know what I mean? Like just stop. Like, can we get curious for a minute? Can we track? And I think this was like, it wasn't the first time I did it, but it was the first time where it was like this drastic. Because she was like, yeah, I guess. Like, kind of like this attitude of like, I doubt it's going to work or anything because I eat really well. Like, okay. And so we start to track, and right away she finds out that this small snack she was having every day, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was somewhere in the ballpark of like 500 calories. Yeah. And it's not to demonize, 500 calories may be perfectly fine but like in the totality of everything else she was having, and that she thought it was just a really light snack. It was basically another meal, and it wasn't big. It was this super, I don't know, like.
There was one before that too.
Was there?
With that, the guy that was doing nutrition coaching and started like same thing, was actually gaining weight and was doing keto beforehand.
Yes.
And had some habits and was eating like a fucking ton of avocados every day.
Yes.
And like so many calories that weren't accounted for. It's like, well, yeah, that's what's happening.
Yes.
But that's why I think that learning how to track and being able to look at it objectively and not personalize it too much is just huge, because a lot of times I'm not saying this in a judgmental way, but you just don't really if you don't have a full grasp on it, you don't have the awareness. Like, you can think that you're nailing everything, but until you put it down on paper and you can really parse it out, you don't know,
Yeah.
So,
And just to bring that story home, within a week, and I used to have the text messages. I'm sure they're still floating around screenshots somewhere, but it was like, she was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. I've lost all we did was swap that snack." It's like, it's not like a don't snack. It's like, but hey, what if we just like don't have that? And is there something else you'd like? Sure. That would maybe be a little more appropriately aligned with your goals. And like the end of that week, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm down 3 pounds. Now I'm down." And it was like, she wound up smashing her goals and everything turned out great. She didn't quit the gym, but it's like, but there's that middle ground with level 2. It's just an awareness generator.
Yeah.
And then level 3 is like, I think level 3 is a personality thing.
It is.
Right? Like,
it is.
Like Jess likes level 3. She can do level 1 as well. She likes level 3, but level 3 can also drive her a little bit crazy. And there's a lot of people but they need that, like, I need to know exactly what to do. I don't know if I want to say they're more type A, maybe.
I think that's probably it. Sometimes.
And they just need to, they like that certainty of like, if I'm doing this and I can turn this lever down and I can do this and like predictably I'm going to wind up about
the thing about
here.
it, is like, but the issue is, even with that sometimes, is like, why layering the habits and the skills in as well, is like, because it's none of it is an exact science.
Yeah.
You don't even if you weigh stuff, you don't know exactly how many calories are inside of that.
And I see so many people do a macro based approach that it's like, what are your maintenance calories? What are your maintenance calories? Like, like I just plugged in stuff to a random calculator on the internet, and like, for some people, like, cool, maybe it wound up working out okay. But the example we use in our 7 Mistakes ebook is like, imagine if we're setting out on a road trip and I was like, hey, we're going to head to the Outer Banks. And you're like, cool, like, how long is it going to take to get there? I'm like, I think like a handful of hours. And the reality is, like, I don't know where we are right now. Like,
yeah,
I don't even know which direction to go. I know I want to get to the Outer Banks. And so I'm going to start driving. And that's like pulling some random number of calories, when it's like, if instead we would just be like, hit like current location on the GPS and then take the time to figure out best routes, and then hit, oh, we're going to be there in this many hours and blah, 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 blah. Like, we can stop at these cool things along the way. Like, but a lot of people just randomly pick something, even with level 3. And then there's this long drawn out process of having to figure out, like, why isn't it working? Oh, well, I guess we can put our calories down. Like, I'll give an example of like, and it's, I'm not going to say the name of the app, it doesn't matter, but like, using one of these apps, I think you did too, this exact app.
I know what app you're talking about.
And I remember Jess was like, of course you're not going to have 100% adherence. And at one point she wanted to go back on this type of a level 3 approach, and she just didn't follow it for that week. And you weigh in every week. And so there was like no change in weight. And then it was like, did you follow the program? And when she said no, it dropped her calories. And I'm looking at that going like, and I can't coach my wife. You know that.
I do know that.
And I'm sitting there going, no, it's like she didn't follow it. Like, so we've got to leave the calories at the same thing, right? But this is the problem of letting like a machine basically generate stuff. Yeah. And this happened multiple times. And then she's like, then she is trying to follow it, but at this point it has her on like a small child's
6 calories
portions. And
yeah.
she's like, I don't have any energy. It's like, it doesn't need to be this complicated.
Sure.
Like level 1 with level 2 for some, like, I wonder why that might be.
Yeah.
Most people would be best suited there.
Yeah. Fair enough. I know of someone that's like same kind of boat, like says they eat very good, and then we find out that they drink 60 ounces of whole raw milk a day.
What?
Yeah. It's like, bud, that's going to make it tough.
Oh, okay. I think I know who you're talking about.
You don't.
Oh, no?
You don't know who I'm talking about. Okay. But it's just like, yeah, like these are things where I'm not saying
That's
this
so much.
It's a lot. And I'm not saying this, I'm not saying this judgmentally or anything, or like, if you don't want to change, don't change. But like, that's going to make it hard for you to drop the LBs. That's a lot of calories.
Yeah.
It's a lot of calories. So a lot of unnecessary calories and a lot of saturated fat, which it's okay in some regard, but like too much we know isn't good for your heart. So anyway, let's do the questions.
Let's do one thing.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I wrote this thing, and it's a line that
What is it?
you say over and over. Introduce, like you always say, show me someone that doesn't want to look great naked. Like, and the reason why I want to say this real quick, and why I was using that to segue into the way I wrote it up here, like to segue into aesthetics versus focusing on performance, is like we don't talk about this stuff that often, but it's a given, and it's like I feel like every gym out there markets on aesthetics. Like if you go look, like, and there's really like no mention of aesthetics outside of like some testimonials. Or obviously Corey's video like highlights the weight that he lost, but when you look at our website, there's no mention of it. And I think you'll agree with me. Like for us, it's like it doesn't mean that we don't care about that. It's that it's like saying integrity is a core value. Right. You know what I mean? It's like of course, but even once someone decides that they want that, like we still don't want to. And this might sound weird, but we still don't want to obsess over the aesthetics because, and I know your rebuttal to what I'm about to say is I'll say like people will point towards like, oh, I would love to look like so-and-so. And oftentimes they'll point towards like maybe an athlete or something. And you'll say like, well, get better parents, like genetics are a huge factor. Sure. But also like just ridiculous amounts of time doing physical things that they love.
Years and 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 years.
And that's not what some people want to hear because they're like, but I want it now. But you made an Instagram post the other day. If it happens fast, it won't last. Is that what the little jingle? And so through all of this, like that's, if I could force people, if I could have people truly understand one thing is there are hard, miserable, unsustainable ways of getting to your goals. And those are always going to look like shiny, attractive ideas, but there are much better ways to go. And even from a mental approach, bringing it full circle, what we were saying at the beginning is like, it sounds crazy, but it's by not becoming obsessed with the aesthetics. And one day you're just like, oh shit. Like,
yeah.
Okay. You know, so
yeah, I think that, yeah, it is, it seems counterintuitive, but I mean, I don't know. Some people tell you obsession's a good thing. Some people tell you that, but I don't know, man. I think
really wanting something is a good thing.
Yeah, sure. But I think a lot of times there's nothing wrong with aesthetics. Like I said, everybody, I say it a little more aggressively than you just said. Like everybody wants other people to look at them and want to fuck them. Yeah. Like everybody wants that. But the thing is like the hyper focusing on that does a similar thing as what the bodybuilding competitions I think do, is it shifts your validation externally. And so you're always looking for that, and then it turns into like a weird thing where you try to validate yourself in the mirror, but you can't because it's not what you want it to be. And then every excuse comes back to like, well, I don't look the way that I want to, and that's why no one wants to fuck me. And not saying that that's the case, right? But
yeah.
that is the extreme end of the spectrum that you can get to, and which really doesn't matter that much. But
I think like where I was saying, it's good to really, really want something, but I think you can also mistakenly believe that getting that thing will make you feel happy, a certain way, or have certain things that you won't. You won't. Because you'll learn that no one cares.
Yeah, no one
Don't get me
care.
wrong, like people care to an extent, but not the way that you think that they will. And you won't. I don't know. I could counter argue this. I heard someone do a thing on like, and I don't remember who it was, so I would love to give them credit, but where it was like, you know, people always say like, oh, you think that being lean will make you happy. It won't. And they're like, bullshit. Like this person that would just love to be lean, if I could and have them be really lean and tomorrow morning they woke up, you don't think they'd be happier? Like they'd be really really, really happy. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yes,
it
there has to be other shit.
Yeah.
There has to be, you have to have
what?
a sense of purpose. There has to be other things that are going on in your life to think that like this one little thing is not going to
change anything else about
solve
your life.
all the problems.
Yeah.
The other things that you might feel about yourself. So like, yes, be lean. It changes the way that you look at yourself for sure. But it can't be your only measure of validation, you know?
I think the one would be like losing hundreds of pounds you will be happier.
Oh, for sure.
If you have hundreds of pounds to lose, otherwise
Yes.
you're dead.
Yeah.
Because of all the other doors that it does open and all of
For
the
sure.
like, it makes everything else in your life easier.
And-
But when we're talking about going from like, I just want to lose 20 pounds and be shredded, like it probably won't change your life.
I think the thing is too
Hardly at all.
is like look at like for me now, like two things, like going into the backcountry and stuff. Like I don't want to be super light. Like I think a lot of people would say I could be 185 pounds and that'd probably be better for me. And I know that first of all, I don't want to go through what it would take for me to get there. Number two, I don't feel good when I'm that light. Like when I'm around 195, 200, like I feel good, and that's like good for me. But I know that being 205, I feel worse when I go to try to do the things that I want to do. Yeah. And like even coming back from California, like I worked out the whole time I was there. I ran, and like going on my runs and stuff since I've been back and I'm a little heavier, I'm like, I got to slow down.
Feels different.
This is harder. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
But that's all to say that, yes, I would like to see my abs more again than I am right now. Cause but like, I also know that I will be better prepared to do the things that I want to do than I am right now. So,
And you know what you need to do to
I know what I
be able
need
see
to
your
do.
abs a little bit more if you want.
yeah,
So-
walk more and pay attention to my hunger cues and not get the ice cream sandwiches at Trader Joe's and keep them in my house.
Or you messaged me weeks back and I was like, oh, are those the Trader Joe's ice cream sandwiches? And you were like, no, this is, what was it?
I DoorDashed them from Cold Stone.
Yeah, no, I DoorDashed these from Cold Stone. I was like, are you kidding me?
It was like right in the middle when.
And I think you said for the second or third time this week.
No. I only did that once.
Okay, only, yeah.
But they came with, it was a pack of 4.
Oh,
yeah. And so I was like right at the end of all the running before the half marathon, and I was like, I can have these. I like them. So
I was just like, those Trader Joe's cookie sandwiches do look amazing. And you were like, no.
oh, but here's the fun thing. I'm embarrassed about how much money I spent on those ice cream sandwiches. Here's the thing. Trader Joe's ones are better. Significantly so. Significantly better. So
I'll try.
let's do the questions. We'll keep people's names out of it. First one is, hold on, I got to open up my Instagram to get to it.
I have them all written down, but I don't know.
Oh, you
It's not
do?
like there's an order that you want to go. Yeah.
You have that one written down? The one that came to my Instagram?
Oh, no.
No, you don't have that. So here's the question. I know the rules. I know what to do, but help me with the mental push I need to divert myself from stress eating in the late afternoon, aside from the usual, maybe you need a better/bigger lunch or go take a walk instead mantra I always hear. Thank you in advance for your help here. So there's a couple things. I mean, first, I will say from a bigger picture, figuring out how to manage that in a different way, the stress, and having a different coping mechanism, or understanding the stress or the sources or the environment or whatever it might be, is the long-term play to manage it most successfully. So the take a walk or whatever it is mantra is like, yes, for sure. Like that is something that you should listen to and you should probe and you should figure out. That being said, I think the easiest way to start is if you are going to do that, it's the same thing as like switching from regular Coke to Diet Coke. You're gonna lose weight because you're consuming fewer calories. So whatever your snack is for that time, trade it out for something that has fewer calories in it, so that you that's kind of like your bridge to being able to manage it in a different way, and it's going to have a positive impact. So like, yes, the long-term play would be to figure it out, change the environment, do something else. But in the short term, change your environment by just having, if you're going to stress eat, do it with something that has fewer calories.
Yeah. Make it harder to get.
Yeah. And change your environment, make it harder to get, keep stuff out of your, like I know that, and I don't know what environment this person's talking about or whatever, but nonetheless, like we're joking about my ice cream sandwiches, but for 99% of the year, I just don't have shit like that in my house.
Yeah.
Like really controlling your environment and keeping the stuff out of it is a big way to be successful with that. And then it puts you in a place where you have to figure things out in a different way, But I think the first step is just finding snacks that are less calorically dense.
Yeah. We just went to Orlando and we were at Disney Springs and there's an M&M store there. So we
Like
bought
the wrapper?
all these, yeah, bought all these varieties of M&Ms. And so there's lots of M&Ms in the house. And right now, I've been snacking on them a lot. But if they're not there, fruit looks more attractive. You know what I mean? So having better options, and I don't even want to say necessarily better options because the fruit's there right now as an option. But by not having the worse options be easy to get to can make a massive difference.
Yeah. You just want to jump in and just go down the list from now on?
Sure.
I don't know. I just want to make sure I got that one in. I knew it wasn't on our list. So how about this one? I'm tired of protein-packed diets, and I've been on and want to go to real food, and I need to lose weight. What's the best kind of nutrition to follow? Christopher Merritt.
So I know what they mean by protein-packed diets. Do you?
Like the protein shake diets?
Yeah. So like basically there's
Like a V-shred type thing.
I don't know about that. Like Ideal Protein is a really popular one, which we know 2 people that actually had success on that. And I know lots more that crashed and burned and didn't. So, but essentially what this person's doing is doing massive caloric restriction, having protein shakes, and then I don't know, there's different variations, and it's like you eat like one actual meal a day and it's like veggies and protein. They're not sustainable. They're super low calorie. A lot of them even recommend that you don't train on them. And so it comes back to, we were talking about sustainability earlier. Like, I want to go to real food and I need to lose weight. What's the best kind of nutrition to follow? It could be any number of things. Where I don't want to sit here and be like, all right, I would do this. Like, I'm
comfortable saying something.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it's sincerely learning the habits and skills to do what you need to do. Like do you need to address your environment? Do you need and learning portion size, learning habits, learning hunger cues, learning how to manage all of these things so that you can create a sustainable approach that works for you, that also allows you to enjoy your life.
And food choice, like you could have very calorically dense, low volume foods that make it very, very easy to overeat.
Sure.
You can have high volume foods that aren't as
you might want
dense.
to explain that a little bit more.
So it would be really, really hard to eat 1,000 calories, which obviously I'm going to go with like an extreme,
I get it, yeah.
Like 1,000 calories of broccoli, right? It'd be really hard
that would fuck me up.
It would be so bad.
I don't handle broccoli well already. 1,000 calories. I'm going to the hospital.
But even think about having 1,000 calories of like chicken breast, right? Like it'd be pretty hard.
It'd be tough to eat a serving, like to get 30 grams of proteins, like 200 calories, 250 calories of chicken, something like that.
It'd be real hard.
Yeah.
Contrast that with we'll use my M&Ms, getting 1,000 calories of M&Ms. So easy. Or even go with like food that someone might actually be sitting down to have, getting 1,000 calories of some type of pasta with steak.
Like an Alfredo sauce.
Like you throw like an Alfredo sauce on it. You have a fattier cut of steak.
Super palatable, high caloric foods. Yeah.
Super. I mean, and then not to mention like, if you're going out to eat a lot, like the amount of oils and everything, and this isn't like me going on saying like oils are bad or all bad, like, but just the amount of oils that pretty much every restaurant that you go to is cooking in, and you don't realize that you're sitting down and having this meal that, had you made it at home the way that you would have prepared it, potentially could have been hundreds, if not even 1,000 calories lighter. Yeah. But that's what I mean by low volume, high calorie versus high volume, low calorie. And so even just food choices can make a massive difference in how you feel. And yeah, my hesitation was, I didn't want to just say improve your habits and skills.
But that's it.
But that is it.
But I think it's attaching it to like a commitment to saying, I'm going to learn these things. This is what's going to do it, having the faith in that. Sometimes it takes a leap of faith rather than saying, oh, I know if I eat 800 fucking calories a day, I'm going to lose weight. But it's like being able to look beyond that and say, I'm making a commitment and I'm going to do this for myself for because I know it's going to improve my life, and I'm still going to be able to enjoy my life for the next 30 fucking years, rather than, well, I can suffer through this for the next 12 weeks and then I don't have a plan after that.
Yep.
But if you learn this approach and you have metrics to track your progress so that you can see yourself moving forward, like learning the skills, learning the habits, and understanding how to put all of that together is the sustainable approach that is going to help you lose weight and keep it off, as they say in the fucking infomercials. But that's the truth, man. It's like that is what to do.
Yeah.
That really is what to do. Now, there's nuance in all of that, in the way that people approach it. Like, which skills are going to be most impactful? Which, like we talked about earlier, tracking versus just the skills and habits, X, Y, and Z. So there's nuance to the approach, but really for what you want, that's it. That is what to do.
If you remember, I used to give I think annually, I don't know, I used to give a nutrition presentation at the gym, and I used to do that, and we did it in Strength Action, where I would talk about like using blueprints to build a house versus just dropping some lumber on the ground and winging it, right? Like you might wind up with a structure that looks like a house, but the foundation isn't really there.
Sure.
And probably won't be up to code. But oh my gosh, what was I going to say with that? Is like, what's your biggest struggle? That's what I always used to talk about that in that presentation, is like people want to think I have to overhaul my nutrition like in every way possible, but it's like you might have one time of the day, one meal, one whatever that really screws you up. So just say, for example, it's lunches at work. There's all this temptation in the break room or whatever. It's like all we need to do is solve that problem, right? To start.
Yeah.
And then we can go from there. But like, don't overcomplicate it. Like, what is your biggest struggle? And not perfect, but like, what does better look like?
Yeah. And I think the thing is too, is something that I talked about somebody else recently, is not to personalize it. You have to create a degree of separation. And first of all, realize that, let's say you try whatever you try and it doesn't work. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It means that approach did not work.
Yep.
And there's two things to that. You also have to give it a fair shot and put the right amount of effort into it and focus on it. Yep. And if you don't, then you can't say that it didn't work. Like shit, you can't do something for a fucking week and say, well, that didn't work for me. So those are the two things. Like you got to give yourself a little bit of grace and realize that this is experimentation and you're learning, and approach it with curiosity. And then at the same right, you have to give shit a fair shake.
Yeah. So I like the James Clear example with the ice cube, where he talks about a room is sitting at, whatever, it's sitting at 0 degrees, and you go in, you're like, all right, I gotta warm this up. I gotta get this ice to melt. And so it's like you get the room to 5 degrees, no change. 10 degrees, no change. 20 degrees, no change. 25, no change. 30, no change. And it's like you're doing all this work to warm up that room, and all of a sudden you hit 33 degrees and the ice starts dripping and melting away. All of the work to get to that point was not a waste. All of that work had to happen. But most people quit when they see absolutely no progress happening between that 0 to 33. But all that work has to happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you have to be willing to just do the work and not see immediate success. It's part of the deal. How many grams of protein should we target in a day? Currently aiming for body weight, but not sure if that is too much or not enough. And then the follow-up question to that was from another person, which asked the same question, but in regards to ideal body weight. So
I forgot that you were reading off a shared note with me. I'm like, how does he have this written the exact
I'm fucking
same way
magic,
that I do?
baby. I'm magic. Yeah.
You want to jump in? You want me to go?
You can go.
So I personally don't think that most people need to hit, because he said currently aiming for body weight. And what he means by body weight is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I don't think that most regular everyday people need to do that.
No.
So, but if you are around that, cool. I'm not saying it like substantially.
It's not
lower than
going to
that.
hurt you.
Yeah.
Unless it tips you into way too many calories, which it probably
Yes.
won't. But
Yes. But if you're typically around body weight, you're probably good. I'm just saying I don't think that most people need that much. The more important thing would be that protein plus total calories. What does that look like? Is your weight, and the easiest way is like, is your weight stable? Cool. Most people eat relatively the same things every day. They have some staples that they move throughout the week. And if that's you and your weight's stable, you could very easily figure out probably about what your maintenance calories are by just tracking what you do for a week or two.
Sure.
And because the other part of it was like, not sure if that's too much or not enough. And it would be like, in what context? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to put on weight?
Sure.
Yeah. And then the second part of it from someone else, Fritz also asked this question. Yeah, I just said his name. Asked this question, but with regards to ideal weight. And I think for this one, I'm not going to take credit for this. I heard Lane Norton say it, and then I started doing the math on it in different situations. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. Is if you have a lot of weight to lose, then instead of eating your current body weight or close to your current body weight in grams of protein, go height in centimeters. That's how many grams of protein would be a good aim for a day. So I am 5'9". That'd be, I think, 175 centimeters. So about 175 grams of protein a day, which is just over my body weight. So yeah,
I would be 180 centimeters. Yeah.
Yeah. So about 180 grams of protein.
That's like we were talking yesterday, is like the one pound that for years it's been the 1 gram per pound of body weight and all that. I never eat that much protein. I never get that much protein in. So, and I'm doing just fine.
But you, me, like we get a lot of protein. There are a lot of people that would be a good aim because they just don't get enough. How many grams per serving can you take? Roughly 100 grams at once, or should it be spread out?
They did research recently on old folks that said that they could absorb and use like 100 grams of protein at a sitting. Like, I don't know if that's like typical or a good thing, but the one thing that you want to keep in mind is that like for protein absorption and synthesis, like you need your protein levels to peak and valley throughout the day. And so it would be better to have more signals than just one big signal from what I understand. So if you're going to eat 150 grams of protein, it'd be best to like have that spread across the day with peaks and valleys, you know?
Yep.
So,
I mean, it's not just answering the question about protein, but it also doesn't mean that like every single time you eat, it needs to be like, I have to have my protein and my carbs and my fats. Like
that just makes it easy.
Yes, and it does. But I think my favorite and one of the tools that we use in the nutrition coaching program took from Mike Brannis was like, if you were to lay out, if you're going to have like, if you use like precision nutrition, like the hand portion. So like 2 palms of protein, 2 fists of fruits and vegetables, 2 cupped handfuls of carbs, 2 thumbs of fats. And if that's breakfast, lunch, dinner, it's like, well, if I want to have a snack, which is actually another question in here, and you don't need to like be like this, like rigid with it, but a simple way is like, well, what is the snack? And it's like, maybe it's ice cream. Oh, can't have ice cream. Like, yeah, you can have some freaking ice cream. Like if it's ice cream, what is that? It's mostly carbs and fat. So now you can take a thumb or 2 of fats from other like breakfast, lunch, and or dinner.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
And a cupped handful or 2 like here and there throughout the day from those other meals. And then boom, you've just shifted it over to the ice cream.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so having things structured helps, but not just answering the protein question there. Like you can move anything around to fit your goals. You reading it? Am I reading it?
I can read it. What protein / caloric intake do you recommend for build / cut cycles, or is cycling even recommended? General principles.
I don't really do this stuff anymore.
I think I don't know. Like
I can answer though. Like when I have helped people do this. Actually, wait. Let me make sure. What protein caloric intake do you recommend for build versus cut cycles? Okay, I'll answer this like with like legit. If I was coaching you, it comes back to maintenance calories. Like we've got to actually know like around what your calories are for maintenance, and it's not like it's like this exact calorie, but you'll have like a good window of where your weight will relatively stay the same. And then I just want to read the question again because what protein caloric intake do you recommend for build versus cut cycles? Yeah, and then once you actually know your maintenance calories, you can use some pretty good TDEE calculators on the internet, total daily energy expenditure calculators on the internet, and then you can run calculations for cutting and for gaining. But without that maintenance, it's like we talked about earlier, it's really just a guess. And then, so I can't give I can't give this person, here's what your protein and caloric intake should be for build versus cut. But I can say that we have had success. And again, keep in mind that I really don't like to see people do this, but in the times where I have, about a 25% deficit for a few weeks, like 3 to 5 weeks, and then have them bring their calories back up. And then we can cycle through that for a while. But protein stays relatively the same. And in those circumstances where we're in a caloric deficit, that's where I typically would keep protein higher and closer to 1 gram per pound of body weight.
Sure. Would also appreciate thoughts regarding fasted versus non-fasted workouts, working out, cardio, and whether the choice of whether to eat prior to working out is static or should change based on goals. There's a couple things. I mean, first, everyone's different when it comes to this. And is it going to help you with your fat loss? No. Will you oxidize more fat if you work out fasted? Yes. But as soon as there's a counterbalance to that, right? So as soon as you ingest it, your body will preferentially store fat. So it's really all it comes down to is your energy balance. If you want to lose fat, you have to be in a caloric deficit. However you figure out that caloric deficit is up to you and what's going to work for you. But fasted cardio is not going to help you lose fat. What you have to look at,
cardio can help you lose fat. I'm just I get what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying take away the word fasted. Cardio can be a means to create a caloric deficit,
for
which
sure.
can lead to fat loss.
But
take the fasted part off. It doesn't make a difference.
Accelerated fasted cardio does not accelerate your fat loss.
Yes.
If it helps you stay in a caloric deficit because you're eating in a certain window, then for sure. But there is no mechanism by which fasted cardio improves your fat loss. No. That is not how it works. There's some research that says doing cardio in a fasted state can help accelerate your development of your lipolytic pathways, which increases your ability to perform and perform aerobically. But I don't know how strong that research is from my understanding. But as far as fat loss, no, that's caloric deficit. Now, from the rest of it, it comes down to preference and performance. So a lot of people, I know plenty of people, I think you're one of them, can work out, lift, condition hard, fasted. Mm-hmm. I like to do steady state work. By that I mean zone 2 work. I like to do that fasted because it helps me maintain the correct intensity and not go too hard and stay where I need to be. But I hate lifting and doing hard conditioning fasted because my blood sugar fluctuates too much and my performance tanks. So a lot of that kind of stuff is personal preference. So you have to pay attention to your performance. So if you notice that you don't perform as well. So for example, if you want the most out of your lift, you have to butt up against the reps in reserve as best as you can. And so your reps in reserve will be different based on your ability to perform. So if you come in fasted and you notice that 70 pounds puts you at your 3 to 4 reps in reserve, but if you eat 80 pounds puts you at your 3 to 4 reps in reserve, you're going to get more out of your lifts if you come in and if you've eaten. But if you notice that there's no difference and you'd rather lift on an empty stomach, then go ahead. But I think it comes down to personal preference and how your body responds and paying attention to the outcomes.
To be clear, because you said that, I don't do intermittent fasting, but with all of the training I was doing for the ultras, if I'm going out for an early morning run, I'm not eating beforehand. I'm having I would have some black coffee, some electrolytes and go. And I've found I'm good for hours. I can run for hours as long as my intensity, for a while I was saying as long as my intensity stays low. But then I started doing those steady state runs where my heart rate was getting up into the 160s for pretty extensive periods of time. And I still had absolutely no issue. And currently, when I go to jiu-jitsu, the 7 a.m. sessions, I don't eat before that. And depending on, I mean, today my heart rate only got into the 160s, but there's times where my heart rate gets into the 180s in those sessions. I feel I can go lift heavy in the morning and have no difference. But I'm just saying this because I don't like, not that it matters, but I don't want someone to be like, oh, like, well, then there must be something to intermittent fasting because Chris intermittent fast. I do not.
No, I was just saying, I know that you can do that and it doesn't affect you.
Yes.
Whereas like for me, it affects me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For me, it's like a convenience of like, if I'm going to a 7 a.m. jiu-jitsu class or I'm going out for an early morning run, I just kind of want to get coffee, get some fluids and electrolytes in and go. And I'll deal with food later.
See, for me, is like I put some carbs in my body if I know I'm going to run hard, so it just seems to help me out. But for that, it's really just personal preference and watching your performance. I would like advice on what to eat before and after a workout. I have been eating a banana with peanut butter before and eggs after. What do I need to do and any more ideas? So, I mean, I don't know. It sounds fine to me.
Yeah.
It's like, what does the rest of your day look like? You know what I mean? That would be the question. Like, if you know that, well, how much peanut butter, with banana, what does the rest of your day look like? So,
yeah, weigh a serving of peanut butter.
Oh God, you're gonna be depressed after you do that. That sounds fine, and it's just making sure the rest of your day goes the way it should. So if you do that and you feel good when you're working out, and you feel good after you work out based on what you do, then stick with it. I think that's fine. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I mean, if we jump ahead and then we can come back, whey protein before or after training. I think I wouldn't sit here and say like, oh, everyone should start using whey protein shakes necessarily. But to go back and bring that to this question, I'd like advice on what to eat before and after workout. I've been eating banana with peanut butter before and eggs after. It's like, you already said it, like, what does the rest of your day look like? Yeah. And a shake could be a good option if we're not getting enough protein in throughout the rest of the day. Because eggs, like, maybe you're having 2, maybe 3. I doubt you're eating more than 3.
That's 12 grams of protein.
Yeah, so you're looking at 12 to 18 grams of protein. Like, it's not a ton of protein. So, are you getting more? Are you getting substantial amounts more in your other meals? Like, yes, cool. If not, then that's where I do like a post-workout protein shake and like again, I keep saying that, like the PN, like super shake type recipes that we've built off of, but it's like, I like to go home after training and get some, like, everyone focuses on protein. And that was one thing, like with some of these questions, like everyone's asking about protein. Like, protein's great and everything, but like, because I've heard people say things like, well, I just gotta make sure that I just get my protein in. It's like, well, no, like,
well, but yes, but no. But I think the thing is like, protein's the hardest one for people.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the big deals. And also,
but there's also people that are scared of carbs, is what I'm getting at.
Well, yeah, and just like talking to my mom yesterday, it's generational, right? Yeah. Because her generation was made scared of fat. So I was like, we were sitting down having lunch, and I was like, Mom, I think you need to eat some more fat. She goes, fat?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, Kath, like, it's not 1965 anymore. Like, fat's not bad for you. It's just if you eat too much, it might be.
Yeah.
But,
and so, yeah, like, I'll go home after training and I'll have something for carbs and I'll make a super shake. And the super shake will be like, yeah, serving of whey protein. I'll have a bunch of frozen fruit in there. I'll have some almond milk. For fats, throw in like ground flaxseed or like whatever, like the thing is, chia seeds, whatever, like blend that up. It's really, really good. It's like going over to whatever smoothie shop you would go to. But just really good ingredients. It's pretty filling. And it just makes it easier for me to hit my protein and total calorie goals. So
yeah. Well, and that goes to the next question: whey protein before or after workout, or is it advisable to eat some type of protein right after workout? So nutrient timing, like when Chris and I would have been younger in our careers, like everybody was like, there's this window, you got to have enough protein.
Anabolic window.
You got to have enough protein during that and blah, 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 or you're not going to make your gains. We know now that that's not true. Like total protein intake and total caloric intake throughout the day is what really matters. If, like Chris said, if it's the most convenient time for you to get protein in and to make sure that helps you get enough in throughout the day, then absolutely have some kind of protein right after the workout. But the only time that it really, really matters for nutrient timing is if you're doing multiple workouts in a day and you need to recover. So like if you're going to lift here, on a Monday morning, and then you're going to run in the afternoon, like absolutely have a decent portion of protein and carbs and fat right after you work out. So that way you have time to digest it and recover, and it'll help you for your afternoon workout. Did we get everything? No, we didn't.
There's one we skipped over. We kind of
Snacking.
touched on it. I
Snacking.
have questions about snacking. Should we snack, and when or how often? What are good snack options?
It depends on the person. I mean, for a lot of people that are having a hard time getting their calories under control, shifting to just like three to four meals a day without any snacking is helpful to start to figure all of that out. But I mean, snacking in and of itself isn't bad. I think one of the things that you might want to look at is like, well, what is this telling me? What can I learn from the fact that I feel like I need to snack, or I'm going for a snack? Like, is it that I'm not eating enough at my meals? Is my environment set up the way that it should be? Am I bored? What's going on that's causing me to snack? So like, no, like snacking is not bad. And if you enjoy it, but it's just understanding, how it affects you and why you're doing it, and like around all of the other habits, like that's the thing to probe.
Is your snacking causing you to overeat?
Yeah, essentially.
If it is, stop doing that.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about with the stress eating,
like,
shift to a
yeah.
lower caloric thing, change your environment, and just really start to get curious and try stuff. Like I think that's understanding why you're doing what you're doing is going to be the biggest thing that's going to be the most helpful.
We got one other question. All I'm going to say, because if that person's like, when are you going to answer that question? It was a medical question, and we're not going to answer.
Oh yes.
Medical.
There's a medical question that we're not going to answer because we're not qualified.
Medical with regards to nutrition.
We're not qualified to answer that question. So, but we can direct you to people that can.
Yes.
So, but we're not going to answer it.
Well, anything else?
That's it. I'm done.
That's the wrong button.
Hey.